I wound my way down through Topanga Canyon, the commuter traffic dissipated by now, and I saw how the creek was tearing at the banks, and there were 2 or 3 places where there was water on the road, and the soft red dough of the mud was like something that had come out of a mold. There was nobody on the beach but me. I walked along the shore till the brim of my baseball cap was sodden, and the legs of my jeans as heavy as if they'd just come out of the washing machine. I drove back up the canyon, the rain a little worse, the flooding more obvious and intense, but it wasn't anything really, not like when the road washes out and you could be driving one minute and the next flailing for your life in a chute full of piss-yellow water. There was a movie at 2 I was interested in, but since it was only just past 12, and I couldn't even think about lunch after the lumberjack special I'd had for breakfast, I went back to the condo, parked the car, walked down the street, getting wetter and wetter and enjoying every minute of it, to a bar I knew. The door swung in on a denseness of purpose. 8 or 9 loners lined up at their bar stools. The smell of cut lime and the sunshine of rum, a straight shot of Lysol from the toilet and back. It was warm, dark. A college basketball game hovered on the screen over the cash register. "A beer," I said, and then clarified by specifying the brand. I didn't get drunk. That would have been usual. I didn't want to be usual. But I did have 3 beers before I went to the movie. And after the movie, I felt a vacancy in my lower reaches where lunch should have been, and so I stopped at a fast food place on my way to pick up the baby. They got my order wrong. The employees were glassy-eyed, the manager was nowhere to be seen, and I was 35 minutes late for the baby. Still, I had had my day. And when I got home, I fed her cream of wheat, opened a beer, put on some music, and began chopping garlic and dicing onions with the notion of concocting a marinara sauce for my wife when she got home. Thoughts of the following morning, of Rodko and what he might think or expect, never entered my mind. Not yet. All was well. The baby in her crib, batting at the little figurines in the mobile over her head. The figurines personally welded to the wires by Clover's hippie mother, so there wasn't the faintest possibility the baby could get them lodged in her throat. The sauce bubbling on the stove, the rain tapping at the windows. I heard Clover's key in the door, and then she was there with her hair kinked from the rain and smelling like everything I'd ever wanted. And she was asking me how my day had gone, and I said, "Fine, just fine." Then it was morning again, and the same scene played itself out. Clover stutter-stepping to the bathroom, the baby mewling, rain whispering under the soundtrack. And I began to calculate all over again. It was Thursday, 2 more days to the weekend. If I could make it to the weekend, I was sure that by Monday at the latest, whatever was wrong with me, this feeling of anger, hopelessness, turmoil, whatever it was, would be gone. Just a break. I just needed a break, that was all. And Rodko, the thought of facing him, of the way he would mold the drooping dog-like folds of his Slavic flesh around the suspicion in his eyes, while he told me he was docking me a day's pay and expected me to work overtime to make up for yesterday, was just too much to hold on to. Not in bed, not now. But then the toilet flushed, the baby squalled, and the overhead light went on. "It's 6:15, my wife informed me. The evening before, after we'd dined on my marinara sauce with porcini mushrooms and Italian-style turkey sausage over penne pasta. In the interval before she put the baby down for the night, while the dishwasher murmured from the kitchen and we lingered over a second glass of Chianti, she told me she was thinking of changing her name. What do you mean? I was more surprised than angry, but I felt the anger come up in me all the same. My name's not good enough for you? Like it was my idea to get married in the first place? She had the baby in her lap. The baby was in high spirits, grinning her toothless baby grin and snatching for the wine glass my wife held just out of reach. You don't have to get nasty about it. It's not your name that's the problem, it's mine. My first name. What's wrong with Clover? I said. And even as I said it, I knew how stupid I sounded. She was Clover. I could close my eyes and she was Clover. Go to Africa and bury myself in mud and she'd still be Clover. Fine. But the name was a hippie affectation of her hippie parents. They were glassblowers with their own gallery and it was insipid. I knew that, down deep. They might as well have named her Dandelion or Fescue. I was thinking of changing it to Chloris. She was watching me, her eyes defiant and insecure at the same time. Legally. I saw her point. She was a legal secretary, studying to be a lawyer, and Clover just wouldn't fly on a masthead. But I hated the name, hated the idea. Sounds like something you clean a toilet with, I said. She shot me a look of hate. With bleach in it, I said. With real scrubbing power. But now, though I felt as if I'd been crucified and wanted only to sleep for a week till Monday, just till Monday, I sat up before she could lift the baby from the crib and drop her onto the bed, and the next moment I was in the bathroom myself, staring into the mirror. As soon as she left, I was going to call Rodko. I would tell him the baby was worse, that we'd been in the hospital all night, and if he asked what was wrong with her, I wasn't going to equivocate, because equivocation, any kind of uncertainty, tremor in the voice, a tonal shift, play acting, is the surest lie detector. Leukemia. That was what I was going to tell him. The baby has leukemia. This time, I waited till I was settled into the booth at the diner, and the waitress with the shoe polish hair had got done fussing over me, the light of recognition in her eyes, and a maternal smile creasing her lips. I was a regular 2 days in a row before I called in. And when Rodko answered, the deepest consonant battering pall of suspicion lodged somewhere between his glottis and his adenoids, I couldn't help myself. "The baby," I said, holding it a beat. "The baby passed." Another beat. The waitress poured. Rodko breathed fumes through the receiver. "Last night, at 4 a.m., there was nothing they could do." "Past?" His voice came back at me. "What is this past?" "The baby's dead," I said. "She died." And then, in my grief, I broke the connection. I spent the entire day at the movies. The first show was at 11, and I killed time pacing around the parking lot at the mall till they opened the doors, and then I was inside and in the anonymous dark. Images flashed by on the screen. The sound was amplified to a killing roar. The smell of melted butter hung over everything. When the lights came up, I ducked into the men's room and then slipped into the next theater, and then the next one after that. I emerged at 3:45, feeling shaky. I told myself I was hungry. That was all. But when I wandered into the food court and saw that they had a raid there, from chapatis to corn dogs to twice-cooked machaca, pretzels and Szechuan eggplant in a sauce of liquid fire, I pushed through the door of a bar instead. It was one of those over-sanitized, too bright, echoing spaces the mall designers, in their wisdom, stuck in the back of their plastic restaurants so that the average moron accompanying his wife on a shopping expedition wouldn't have to kill himself. There was a basketball game on the 3 TVs encircling the bar. The waitresses were teenagers. The bartender had acne. I was the only customer, and I knew I had to pick up the baby. That was a given. That was a fact of life. But I ordered a Captain and Coke just for the smell of it. I was on my second, or maybe my third, when the place began to fill up, and I realized with a stab of happiness that this must be an after-work hangout, with a prescribed happy hour and some sort of comestibles served up gratis on a heated tray. I've been wrapped up in my grief, a grief that was all for myself, for the fact that I was 26 years old and going nowhere, with a baby to take care of and a wife in the process of flogging a law degree and changing her name because she wasn't who she used to be. And now suddenly I'd come awake,